starting to take shape. President-elect Trump has appointed Susie Wiles to be his new White House Chief of Staff. First woman to hold the title. Very impressive resume, as you can see right behind me. You got her as running the campaign from A to Z. She's also a longtime Florida-based Republican strategist, knows the area, also knows Washington. As for the other cabinet members, you got Secretary of State. You have these finalists here. You got Haggerty, Rubio, and Rick Grinnell. Rubio's in a Senate seat that could easily be replaced by a Republican governor. Bill Haggerty is also in a positive spot there. Also, Secretary of Defense, Mike Waltz, Mike Pompeo. Mike Pompeo already had two positions. Secretary of State, Congressman Mike Waltz, big military background, also served with Dick Cheney as an advisor to him. Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf's had a job as acting, and Tom Homan could certainly do it. He also was ICE director. And on the other side, a very key position, you have Attorney General Mike Lee, Ken Paxton, or could there be somebody on the outside, someone that took on Letitia James yesterday? And then, of course, Department of Energy, the name that keeps popping up is someone from an energy-rich state, and that is Governor Doug Burgum, who almost was the running mate, was certainly a finalist there. Governor, welcome. Your thoughts about being recommended for so many different positions with the Trump administration.
Well, Brian, I think the first place to start is just to celebrate this historic win by President Trump. Under Biden and Harris, we had drawn our country into two proxy wars, one with Russia, one with Iran, and also a Cold War with China. And now it's only been 48 hours. President Trump, the world is preparing for peace. I mean, we got a new sheriff in town, and President Trump's policies, whether it's maximum pressure on Iran, whether it's making sure that America is going to be dominant in energy, which is key to all the diplomacy we do with every country in the world. This is game-changing already, so very exciting time. And I said these policies are going to lift up for everybody. If you're a Democrat, Independent, Republican, doesn't matter whether you voted for President Trump or not, you're going to benefit from these policies of having a safer world, a safer border, and a stronger U.S. And so very exciting time. And people are flocking. The talent that is showing up, what's very different than 2016 when President Trump won unexpectedly. I mean, now, every position he has, there's 20 qualified people banging on the door wanting to get a job. And I know that President Trump and his team, fantastic choice with Susie Wiles. They're going to have the pick of the litter in putting together a fantastic team to help drive our country forward.
So there's a couple of things. People look at North Dakota. They know you have this tech center expertise, too. You know Silicon Valley inside and out. You made a lot of your wealth there. But then they look at North Dakota and they see how oil-rich and energy-rich it is, third in the nation for crude oil production, and natural gas leader and exporting 82% of its natural gas out of the state. It's got coal, home to the world's largest known lignite deposit and seventh largest coal-producing state. So people think naturally energy. But I also noticed you've been doing a lot of traveling international. You have a lot of international contacts. What's that been like, and how does that possibly change your thought process?
Well, Brian, as you know, President Trump and I were both outsiders, both business guys. We both got elected for the first time into public office back in November of 2016. In that perspective, I mean, my spending, 25 years building global companies, had people working for me all over the world. One of the things that I understand right now is that in addition to the global competition we have between great powers, President Trump understands everybody wants access to our markets. That's why tariffs are going to be such a powerful soft diplomacy tool. President Trump also understands that we're in a AI arms race with China, and to have AI for the U.S. to win that arms race, which affects every job, every industry, affects defense, we've got to have more electricity. He understands that. And so the combination of things. So I had a chance to be in Israel just over 4 weeks ago, meeting with President Netanyahu. 2 weeks ago, I was in South Korea with President Yoon. I can tell you, world leaders are excited about President Trump being back in office because they know that the policies are going to support allies, and we're going to have maximum pressure on our adversaries. It was just the opposite under Biden and Harris, who were still, running the old tired Obama playbook of appeasement with Iran. So it's a fantastic new day in terms of foreign policy, and I can tell you firsthand, our allies are excited about having President Trump back in office.
Have you talked with President Trump about anything about or the positions you might be interested in that maybe the audience here at home would like to know?
Well, had an opportunity to be with them in Mar-a-Lago on Tuesday night on that historic night. I had an opportunity to be with them at midnight that morning in Grand Rapids when he took the stage at midnight. Right. His fourth rally of the day, 2 hours he was on stage. People just need to understand that there isn't anybody that works harder than President Trump, right. And he's working for the American people. Just an incredible, once-in-a-lifetime figure.
When asked to serve, you will, and your Achilles is better, so you can't even say you'd have to limp through it. You're 100% now. Governor Burgum, thanks so much. Best of luck in the position you're most likely going to be offered. Hopefully it's something that you want. Governor Burgum, thank you.
So we're waiting for some more names to be released from President-elect Trump's list for his administration after a historic pick for White House Chief of Staff. His campaign manager, Susie Wiles, will be the first woman to hold that Chief of Staff job, very highly respected within the campaign and by President Trump. She had worked by his side in 16 and 20 and came back for this campaign. And with that, we bring in former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Good to see you, as always. Your name had been discussed at one point for this position. What was your thinking on that?
Well, it was early discussed. I said no right away. I said no for a couple reasons. I thought the very best person for the job was Susie Wiles. Mm-hmm. I mean, once again, President Trump makes history. The first woman chief of staff was selected by President Trump. And he didn't select Susie because she's a woman. Right. She is the best person for the job. Yeah. She's intellectual, but just what she was capable of doing. You've got to put in perspective this election last Tuesday. It's been 2 decades since a Republican won the popular vote and the Electoral College. Right. But I was talking to President Trump last night. I said, you've got to think how big election this is. This is only the second time in history for a president to come back. But he came back in such a big margin. But think about the obstacles he had to go through. They tried to put him in trial and jail all the way through, the obstacle of going through a primary. And this whole time, the professional team he had around him was being run by Susie. She's prepared for this, and when I look at the people in the transition that are capable of going in, he's going to have the very best team. But what's even better for President Trump, he's better prepared himself. He knows what the job requires. He knows what needs to get done. But more importantly, he has the work ethic to do it, and he has 4 years to make it happen.
I think, most women like it when the person who's picked for the job is the best person, and it is a woman, rather than hearing, oh, I'm going to go find a woman to fill this job, which means, oh, you got picked, but only from 50% of the population, which is not a great way to join. And she has done a stellar job. She's also not someone who wants any recognition, and she doesn't want to be on camera, which is, I also think, a huge plus for her. He did go through several chief of staffs last time around. Do you think that she has the stick-to-itiveness and the right position to stay with this throughout, because that kind of turnover is not helpful?
It's not helpful at all, but I think you'll find her the chief of staff the entire time. Think for one moment what she went through to get to this point. All the court cases, going through a primary, and then having Biden drop out, 2 assassinations attempts, and she had to run the ship the entire time. Nobody has ever gone through a campaign like that. Yeah. And she did it in a more professional manner. I mean, his primary this time was very difficult. DeSantis had more money, and he won Florida. Now, she's not new to the game, though. She worked for Jack Kemp, Jeb Bush. She's been running races, and she ran his before.
Yeah.
And think of the difference between Biden. When Biden went to select somebody.
Oh, we got to go. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm running out of time. I was just going to say she's also the daughter of Pat Summerall, who I grew up watching on NFL Sunday, and also a Jersey girl, which is to her credit. So thank you very much, Kevin. Great to see you as always. Sorry, we're a bit short on time today. We hope to see you very soon. Have a great weekend.
It's hard to lose. It's hard to understand while so many of our fellow citizens, people that we have fought so long and hard for, wound up choosing the other path. It's hard to reckon with what that path looks like over the next 4 years. Even in the face of defeat and deep disappointment, I've never felt more inspired. I've never felt more motivated. I've never felt more fired up of what's possible in this country.
But it didn't work for Tim Walz, did it? And Kamala Harris, Tim Walz addressing a crowd in Minnesota today to say the fight goes on, but the fight with spending will go on too. And for Republicans taking charge on Capitol Hill, this horrific reality, if you look at it, $250 billion deficit for the first month of the fiscal year. That's not for the year, for the first month, October. $250 billion. Enter Kristi Noem, the South Dakota Republican governor, who made Cato's top 5 list of governors watching out for the taxpayer in one of the most efficiently run states in the entire country. Governor, very good to have you.
Oh, it's great to be with you, Neil. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, they'll need your advice on Capitol Hill right now, Governor, because it is a mess. And if that's our, deficit for the first month, we've got 11 other months to go.
We do, Neil, and this is something President Trump is ready to tackle. If you remember, I served in Congress when he did tax reform the last time. It was one of the issues I was extremely passionate about. I just believe that the American people expect us to be responsible with the dollars that they pay in taxes, but they also make very good decisions for themselves. We should let them keep as much money as possible and do our duties as a government and what the Constitution tells us to do with their dollars. So President Trump wants to right the ship. I was listening to Governor Walz talk about how hard it is for him to understand why people didn't choose him and Vice President Harris, and it's because their policies bankrupt people. Their policies cripple families and our economy, and what he's done in Minnesota has been absolutely devastating to his economy, and South Dakota's right next door. We're thriving. We're doing well, and it's because we've embraced the same policies that President Trump wants to put in place.
What I was impressed with what you did in South Dakota and continue to do, Governor, is that you and your people looked at every line in the budget, every line, no matter how statistically insignificant, and to look where there could be savings. Now, we're told Elon Musk might be playing that kind of a role for Donald Trump and sort of seeking out, waste and abuse and all that. We overhear that phrase, but in other words, where you could generate growth versus spending that is just digging a hole. How do you balance that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Elon will bring an amazing perspective to that discussion. My background was I was a farmer, rancher, business owner, had several different businesses too, and I brought that perspective to the governor's office, and it made me a better leader. It made me put the time in that I would in a business and look at every single item. In fact, we spent all day yesterday going through our state budget again because I'll propose the next fiscal year here in just a couple of weeks. So, that's what leaders do, is they make the hard decisions. They look at these budget situations and how can I help the people in my state thrive? Many times it's not through more government spending. It's through giving them incentives and opportunities to invest in themselves so that they can provide for their families.
Still, Donald Trump has some big goals, big tax cut goals, tax cut goals that some have priced at, adding another $5 to $6 trillion to our debt in the next 10 years. I often find, Governor, with these predictions, they're not worth the paper they're written on because the very next week the figures have changed. But having said that, do you think the aggressive tax plan he's looking at should be paid for?
That tax plan is designed to help our economy grow and to bring manufacturing back home, research back home, and to help our businesses and families here do better. It will absolutely bring more dollars into the United States of America and help address our debt. But the president's not just focused on tax cuts. He's got plans for how he's going to eliminate our debt, what he's going to do to pay it off, strengthen our military. He has told me several times now, a couple of times just since Election Day, about how focused he is on doing big things. He knows he only has 4 years, and he wants to hit the ground running, and he said anybody that I want around me needs to be thinking big, too.
All right, so big things can cost big bucks, but you think that he will have ways to pay for all of this?
He will have a plan to do the right thing for the American taxpayer and the citizens that live here. He's talked to me about those. He's talked to the people of this country about some of those plans, and they've embraced them wholeheartedly. You remember the no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. He's going to do all of those things. And we are going to thrive because people will have more dollars in their pocket, and they'll be extremely successful and happy providing for their families while our nation is more secure.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.